Dean Perkins certainly not comfortable in that car. No doubt. You can just see he's been more defensive than he has been proactive at the moment. And the minute you do that, you take all the speed out of the car, and it's just a matter of time before the guys get to you. The other thing you've got to be careful of around here is that the guys don't run out of patience and start removing you from that position.
Well, again, like we've seen from the first two races, Mark, we're beyond that stage of where the brakes really start to go away with these race cars on the tight confines of the street circuit here at Hamilton.
So every good part of the car they had is now gone, so they're just relying. First the brakes go, then they start using the engine and the gearbox, and when they want to give a bit of sympathy, they'll start using the car in front to slow them down.
Edgell working over Booth. Booth having to cover down into turn number 2. So, like Fogg, Edgell looks like he's got good race pace at the late stages of the weekend here for the NZV8 finale.
Another guy that was just in front of all this picture is Nick Ross. He has done a sterling job all weekend. Hasn't had probably the best national championship by his own merits, but there he is. He's just hanging in the background. He's keeping out of trouble. He's the second fastest Commodore. Considering that there's a lot of other Commodore teams that have a lot more input, a lot more technology available to them, you have to say, first-class job by the young man.
John McIntyre just controlling the pace out front. He's the fastest driver in the 1 minute 32, low 132s at the moment, as Edgell's having another look up the inside of Booth. Booth in the 9th position. He's got all sorts of attention on his hands here.
Dean Perkins just in turn 5, for whatever reason, he just doesn't have much car speed, and that's allowing Andy Booth to get a flyer off 5, but of course he gathers in the back of the United video car, slows down, and Tim Edgell comes on the back of him. So, as I say, you're caught between a rock and a hard place, but here we go. Is Angus going to go left? He's going to go right. Answers that question for me.
You're right. His left.
One of us is going to be right. That I do know.
He's motored past, but Proctor's going to come back down the inside. He's going to try and cross him over. Proctor sideways. Perkins does a good job to go to the outside. He made the right choice. Proctor does the 360 and the burnout recovery. Henderson goes by him as well. So that does some good work from Clark Proctor and drops him back probably, the better part of 4 to 5 positions out of that battle group with Angus Fogg. But there's your race leader, John McIntyre. Comfortably the fastest on track. Andy Knight looking for his best result of the weekend. He's had a 3rd and a 4th today. Andy Anderson in 3rd, and I mean, other than that little skirmish at the start of this race, he's had a pretty solid weekend in the ITM Commodore.
Yeah, you're doing a sterling job. Say, we led up to it, done a good job in qualifying, and he's kept that momentum going. But you may ask yourself the question, why is Johnny McIntyre pushing so hard? Why doesn't he back off with such a lead? The question is, the minute you back off, the tyres lose temperature. The minute you lose temperature, then you start creating another whole set of issues in the car that you don't want.
Proctor just losing the rear end of the race car. Fogg taking advantage.
That was close.
That was close. He was just about a Toyota badge scraped down the side of Foggy's LG Ford.
See, look, Angus didn't even try to encroach or move.
I think he was going to attempt the crossover, which he ended up doing anyway, but at that stage, Proctor was sideways in front of him.
I was just waiting. I was listening for the skipping noise of the rear end. I think he just, simple brake fade. That's what happens with these cars. We've alluded to it a long time before in the commentary. And we're going to see a bit more of this too, I think, with 5 laps to go.
I don't know about you, Mark, but off that onboard replay, I got dizzy with the 360 spin. Where are we? There he is, Dean Perkins, chased by Booth and Edgell. Edgell cannot find a way around the Big Ben Commodore.
He's down the inside of him, but is he going to haul it up?
No,
there we go.
Around he goes.
Exactly the same thing. Next lap, and as I say, we haven't seen the end of this kind of action yet.
John Penny with the defensive driving course to the inside evades the Chester's Ford, and an eternity here for Tim. He's lost a lot of positions out of that.
One thing I can't get my head around is that everybody is on the ragged edge, and why you think you can outbrake someone with 5 laps to go when all the cars are spent is beyond me. Either that or know there's something else that no one else does.
Well, there's not too many other opportunities. I mean, under brakes, the high speed, probably the best passing opportunity we've seen over the weekend is at turn number 5, with a couple of very sneaky passes across some of the different classes here for the ITM weekend here in Hamilton. Perkins and Booth, so the pressure has been taken off the back of Booth with Tim Edgell going around under brakes the lap before. So back in shot, John Penny doing a very good job in maintaining that status of being in the top 3 or 4 Holdens constantly towards the end of the championship, certainly here. Not a championship round here at Hamilton, but JP's done a pretty good job.
He's kept the car, well, relatively clean. Of course, he had that incident with Paul Manuel in race 1, but he's just circulated, he stayed out of trouble, and a lot of guys have faulted, and that's the rewards for that.
just highlighting how good pace Angus Fogg's got. He's just set the fastest lap of the race, but at this stage of the weekend, those lap times have backed off by actually probably only a tenth of a second, which is actually quite remarkable. Usually you're probably seeing the times drop off by, what, 3/4 to a second at this stage of a race weekend?
Well, certainly because there's so much oil, so much debris that the track's bleeding, as they say. So, you know, when the sun gets on, a little bit of debris comes out of the asphalt. They don't really have much in their favour, so for them to be doing their lap times means they've still got a lot of confidence in the equipment under them.
So they may be struggling with brakes, but they've still got good tyre underneath the majority of the front-running cars. On board with Henderson taking a ride through the chicane. So Angus Fogg's attention's now turned to the back of Eddie Bell. So this is for 4th and 5th. Foggy with great pace, carrying some damage to the left front corner of the LG Ford.
You can just see the difference in the attitude. You have a look at the yellow and blue car or Eddie Bell's car, you'll see the thing roll. It takes a while to go from one transition to another. That car of Angus Fogg's, it's like it's on a solid platform. When he turns, the car responds and goes, and that's why he's allowed him to get so much car speed and gather the guys up in front of him relatively easily.
So both cars carrying damage. Eddie Bell's got the wing mirror folded back on the left-hand side of the car. I can tell you that the Ford and Holden dealers and wreckers here in Hamilton have done a roaring trade in mirrors this weekend.
Oh, they have. They're loving this, aren't they? It doesn't matter which category racing it is, of course, but everything's gone. But I still maintain the guys that have got the mirrors tucked back are trying harder than the guys that are still out in the normal position.
Well, they're certainly using all of the racetrack. Fogg up the inside of Bell. There was a bit of contact, but more of a rub rather than a decent old solid hit. But can he get a run up the inside here? He's got a guard rub.
Yeah, look, we've alluded to this before. That won't mean anything. Eddie Bell left the door open for him. You do not leave the door open, but when Angus Fogg's there, there's twice as much reason to shut it.
I don't know that it was so much of a door as a ranch slider. It was a fairly big gap, but I think Foggy might have some bigger dramas here. That's a bit more than just a rub. He might have just reset it, hitting the tyre stack off the exit, though, because the smoke's gone away.
Yeah, I think it's going to come back right now as they start putting the load on. But, hey, look, smoking's gone away, so one of two things. It's either going to stop or it's going to go flat.
Well, he's lost a little bit of ground. He's lost a better part of, 3 to 4 car lengths. Nick Ross is back in the picture. So here's the replay down the inside. Door was open and then it's probably half closed.
Yes, glass half full or half empty, as we heard before. So either way, contact was made, but they both carried on. But this guy here, Johnny McIntyre, isn't he doing a sterling job? Just stayed out of trouble. Didn't get the best starts in race 1 or race 2, but just conserved himself, held his composure. Now about probably win the triple feed, actually.
Well, yeah, the three-peat for the weekend, the clean sweep here for the ITM 400 at Hamilton for the NZV8s. Just a couple of laps left to go. And he's just cruising around. He's probably got the arm up on the window, Peter Brock style. He's probably having a chat to the boys about now, asking what's for dinner.
Yeah, it's the Esky Phil, because it's been a good weekend, and let's celebrate the end of the championship season, although it's not a championship race on a high. So, look, but he, as I said before, he can't back off, because the minute you do that, it takes the temperature out of the tyres, it takes the temperatures out of the brakes, and when you try to turn the car, and if you do too much slowing down, it's not there to respond when you need it, and of course the concrete walls are only metres off the track.
Oh, Eddie Bell with a big slide through turn number 3. That's going to compromise some exit speed. Angus Fogg filling his mirrors to the inside, to the outside. Bell will have track position down to the chicane, but so often over the weekend we've seen passes set up through the back of the circuit at this part of the track.
And I think you're right, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Angus Fogg actually go inside of Eddie Bell, go through turns 6 and 7.
Well, out of 5, is he close enough to get a run this time? He might try and size him up for the final lap, because next time by they will get the final lap board. John McIntyre leads from Andy Knight, Andy Anderson in 3rd. This is the battle group for the 4th and 5th positions. Not quite close enough at the moment, but Angus looks a little bit better. He's sideways. Eddie looks to be struggling with car balance right now on the independent.
Now he's got a nail. He's got to nail it harder, and he's hit the throttle. He's got the perfect execution. Now he's got to suck Eddie Bell in. He's got to drag Eddie close to the left-hand side of the screen you can. Get him on the dirty stuff in the hope that when Eddie hits the brakes on the dirty part of the line, he does a half spin.
Has he got the line? Bell good under brakes. Side by side, Bell gives him the squeeze. This is good close racing. So the final lap board is out for John McIntyre. This is the battle for 4th that we're watching. McIntyre leads from Knight and Anderson. Fogg up the inside again at 2. Locks the brake, not quite close enough.
He's only got really probably another 2 opportunities to go. That's between coming off 4, get a flyer into 5, and then maybe into 6.
Here's Johnny Mac.
Final corner for Johnny.
Well, he's that far ahead. John McIntyre clean sweep here at Hamilton for the ITM 400 and the NZV8. He takes the checkered flag. He's celebrating, but a fantastic job over the weekend to keep out of trouble. Andy Knight, his best finish of the weekend.